Hey there, guys. I want to talk to you a little bit about CBT for social anxiety, or cognitive behavioral therapy for social anxiety. Social anxiety, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, it can be overwhelming, and getting over it, to be blunt, it takes perseverance. It took me personally, it took me 11 years to formulate my approach and get over that bridge, sort of becoming free from this problem. And CBT for social anxiety is one approach that's used pretty frequently in the medical world. Now, talking to a therapist or counselor for some people is effective, although one course of treatment is not usually long enough to recover completely. And it's taken many, many years to reach the level of social anxiety or shyness that you're suffering from. And cognitive behavioral therapy for social anxiety, it's certainly not a quick fix solution. Now, therapists or counselors, they're not always easy to connect with, leaving you feeling that they haven't really listened to you. And one therapist I saw used to sit at an unusual angle from me, taking notes as I talked. And when I stopped talking, he'd kind of wave his arm for me to start talking again. And it wasn't exactly helpful. The history of CBT, it's evolved over time, and the basics of it remain the same. Essentially, it's a collection of theories and techniques that you have to sort of put forth an effort to change your life by putting yourself into the uncomfortable situations that trigger your social anxiety. Essentially, you're numbing yourself. Maybe that's not a good way of phrasing it. You're putting yourself in the situation that causes social anxiety, and over time, the effect is the social anxiety intensity will become less and less. A lot of times you'll be given a sheet of exercises for an injury, but you don't do them as regularly as you're told. They're not going to help. Actually, you're going to re-injure that body part. Individuals with social anxiety, they're often frightened to take these big leaps with cognitive behavioral therapy, where they put themselves in these situations. And if you're not fully committed to it, and you're just sort of like throwing yourself into the situation and purposefully experiencing the social anxiety as a means of getting used to it or adapting to it, and you don't do it continuously, you just start to dread it more and more. It starts to become something that you want to avoid more and more. Now, in theory, cognitive behavioral therapy looks at your thinking style. It analyzes your thinking style, and it sort of studies your thinking errors. Some CBT therapists will look at your history, delve into your childhood, and question your core beliefs and how they were formed, and how all of this sort of led to your thinking errors. And I go into ways of thinking, or sort of incorrect ways of rationalizing social situations in other videos, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. But when you go for these CBT sessions, these therapists, they help work through your key problems and symptoms of social anxiety, and they focus on what I like to call hot thoughts. And basically, in each key situation, this strategy sort of rationalizes these hot thoughts. And by hot thoughts, I mean negative thoughts, or thoughts that sort of instill just a sense of panic. In real life, CBT for social anxiety, it doesn't offer much empathy. These therapists, they're not in your shoes. Oftentimes, they don't suffer from social anxiety. There are exceptions, and I'm certainly not against cognitive behavioral therapy altogether. I know it sounds like I'm pretty biased in this video. There are a lot of merits to CBT. It certainly helps you understand your thought process. It doesn't really give you, at least in my experience, much of an action plan for your own life. Ultimately, you have to learn to control the social situations and interactions, accepting fear as something you can handle and move beyond. You can have a life full of possibilities by taking advantage of my own experience and my own research. What I do is I supplement CBT with an array of strategies that are really actionable in any social situations. let's talk about how you can work CBT into your own life. Well, you're certainly a unique individual. The best approach to applying CBT is to combine it, as I said, with other strategies. Because you'll find that some methods work better for you than others in supplementing your social anxiety therapy. Maybe you've tried things like hypnotherapy or reading books about the topic. Maybe you've struggled in forming your own way to deal best with social anxiety. You have to face your own social anxiety issues on your own terms. But I've been there, and much of social anxiety is universal in the way it's experienced and the way your brain responds with this habit of negative thinking. So if you're asking yourself if CBT is going to give you your life back, the way they define this therapy, they define it by saying, whether or not the reduction in social anxiety is significant. It's not ultimately a solution. They're really just looking to minimize your symptoms as much as humanly possible. And the time you're given for CBT therapy sessions, it can be limited. And when you reach the maximum number of weeks, you're sort of back trying to put the theory into practice. And this is difficult when you've spent a decade or more getting to where you are now. Some social anxiety sufferers find they've tried various courses. They're looking for, the one that works. Limited sessions for CBT, they're unlikely to leave you walking out of the room, wanting to shout that you're cured. A very simple coping mechanism for certain situations with social anxiety is when you're feeling high levels of anxiety. This is just when you're by yourself. This is when you're anticipating a social situation or anticipating that anxiety. One nice meditative action to do, if it's a valid option for you, is to look out the window and find a cloud in the sky. And sort of using your own imagination, imagine those unhelpful thoughts that come into your mind, those thoughts that you're not good enough, those paranoid negative thoughts, those self-deprecating comments and labels that you place upon yourself. Try to project those thoughts onto a cloud in the sky and picture those thoughts sort of drifting away and just diffusing throughout the sky. And I know this sounds a little silly, but it gives you something to practice and take action upon. And as you really try to focus on this, believe it or not, you're actually training your brain to push away negative thoughts. You don't need to keep all these thoughts in your head. Certainly these negative thoughts can be absolutely overwhelming, and most of the time they cause your panic, themselves. So it's important to learn how to let unhelpful thoughts go. If it helps to think about a thought and rationalize it with some of the strategies I'll teach you, then definitely do so. But sometimes if the thought is about a situation you can't change, and it's just unhelpful, then you need to start finding ways to essentially throw these thoughts out of your head, and don't waste another moment, just focusing on them and trying to figure out where you fit into their equation. I want you to check out socialanxietyfix.com right now, because I offer a free video series that's going to help you out a lot. This video just sort of touches on CBT very lightly, but I want to give you actionable strategies and techniques that you can implement into everyday life. And these are things that can supplement ongoing therapy, or other methods that you may be implementing for your social anxiety. These are, actionable things that you can practice daily, and they really build your mental muscles, for lack of a better word, to fight off social anxiety. So check out this free video series by going to socialanxietyfix.com right now, and I'll see you there. Take care. Bye.